Okay, thank you everyone for coming here today. This is the first delegated representative workshop. We're sort of the pilot group, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate you all coming here, to this icy place. And we're a bit lucky with the weather today, so I hope you're all enjoying Norway. That's coming from afar. I want to start before we do the ground rules with a bit like mantra or something making impression on me and something I keep in mind when I'm working on this. So this morning before I started the workshop, I actually got good luck messages from all across the world, from all of the Cardano community to us. Like the people in Ghana, in America, in England, in Colombia, in Japan, in Korea, everywhere. They're saying like, could we as a community, we can do this. We can try to make governance better. And for me, that made a big impression. Why? We are creating something that's truly unique. We are creating something that's a governance system that's more also a social system that is transparent, that is fully open to anyone. That freedom and that thing that's unable to be influenced by corruption because it's open, it's on there on the blockchain, and anyone can join it. Like that for me is maybe the key thing about being a delegated representative. You don't need to own a lot of ADA to be a delegated representative. People can put their trust in you and delegate to you. And this form of liquid democracy is something truly unique. And what we're doing here is something that's creating opportunities for people all across the world. So when we are doing this, my mantra will be, how can we make delegated representatives something anyone can join into? Someone who has heard of Cardano yesterday. Like how can we try to think about that when we go through all the discussions we're going to today? How can we make this as accessible as possible? Because for me, that's the one single success formula of delegated representatives. If we make it inclusive, we are going to be a social power force that over time will make this governance the best that has ever been in the history. That's what I believe in. So that's my rallying cry before we start this today. And yeah, keep that in mind. Before we start, we have a few ground rules. And this is, of course, with inspiration from all of the other Cardano events we had. The Cardano community in general are really nice people. But as anyone else, we can have heated discussions. But if we keep these rules, we will have a much better discussion as well. So number one rule is contribute. Contribute with your presence. Number two, seek to understand first rather than persuade. This is so important. I go into this trap myself tons of times. Like, I'm already thinking of a counter argument while the other guy is talking. Like this, we all do this, right? But try to be here in presence. Try to really listen to what the other person is saying, and then think of the counter argument or what you agree or don't agree with. And invite and honor this diverse opinion. That's why we are here today. I call us a pilot because we're the first. We are going to share all that we're doing here with the workshop in Ghana, and they are going to share all they're doing with the workshop in America. Like this diverse opinion set, that's what's going to make Cardano governance excellent. So do that. Be open to diverse opinions. And I will try as well as one of the moderators of this. And keep the scope in mind. So the scope here is both the delegated representative in Catalyst and in the SIP 1694 governance. We have not learned that much yet about the Catalyst governance other than it's going to be a platform and you're going to be able to represent yourself on this platform. What we know of the SIP 1694, I'm going to assume, because I see the faces there, that you are familiar with the SIP 1694. And that you know of the platforms that are there. But we are going to go a bit into discussion about that as well. So the final rule, step up, say what you want to say, step back, go for honesty and depth without going on and on. Sounds good? Yep. Perfect. And I will sit down for the rest of the... yeah. While we're waiting for the boot, I will just do the speech to this one. So the first thing we are going to cover is why become a DRep. And I want to focus here, like, what is the story we can tell outside our own governance bubble to someone who has not heard of Cardano governance before? Should we talk about the fact that any ADA holder with a minimum ADA can become a DRep and have a direct say in Cardano governance? Is it the liquid democracy part of it, that delegation of voter power can ebb and flow faster than anything we have seen before in politics? Or is it the fact that we, as a DRep, it's even flexible enough to encompass anything from a single person to a large organization, a village, or a city? Is it the centralization aspect of it we should highlight and tell a story also of the ecosystem? That anyone can permissionlessly partake in governance and cannot be blocked from this political action. So what I want to do is to discuss, are there some stories or story we should tell about why become a delegated representative? What are the group's most highlighted reasons? What can we bring to the Ghana workshop for them to consider as well? This is the task I want us to do. And if everyone has the Miro board, I don't right now. We can start individually. And should we do 5-5? So we do 5 minutes individual or 3 minutes individual? 5-5, yeah. So, yeah, that's the task. Why become a delegated representative? Your own opinion about this. I see 3 groups, but I want all of us to decide. Like I see one that's more about the democracy part of it. I see another one that's more about like being that part that makes governance work, so more like a functional why become a DRep. And the last one is like more about this like freedom aspect, not just the democracy, but like to be able to champion any type of issue. But let's try to group them and see what fits together. And then let's, after that, try to discuss like what can we bring forward to the Ghana workshop that we here in Norway think is important to why become a delegated representative. And there was one funny here I have to mention, like, where was it? Who doesn't want to become the dictator of Cardano? So saturation limits, we might need to look into that. Thomas, can you lead the grouping part of it?
Yeah, don't we already have a self-declared king of sunshine?
I believe so.
Mike, our glorious dictator.
Yeah.
I thought it was John who led that meeting.
No, Mike, it's Abel.
Was it able to that led it?
And Johnny.
And Johnny.
And one of the guys is always making sure to
Yeah.
give the other one just a little bit tokens, less tokens.
That's the beauty of a testnet, right? We can, as I said in Edinburgh, we can fuck it up.
Only the beauty growth for the test net.
That's really
So we can also maybe do like a open round and then we vote. Thomas, what do you think about that? On what we will prefer from this? For me, like I would highlight the functionality of being why become delegated representatives. It's a way like many people don't have the time to devote to, and that argument I think is a good one. It's really a strength of liquid democracy that you can partake in that democracy and you can choose to trust someone on an issue, but at the same time, if you want on another issue, you're able to represent yourself or even change where your voting is going. So for me, that's an important reason of why to become a delegate representative. But yeah, it can be many reasons for many people, and that's why we're doing this. Okay, Thomas, what just happened?
Did that happen for everyone?
No.
Mer janky sometimes.
Yeah.
More objects
I
on
think
the
you
board.
can just F5 page in it's probably going to do that.
Okay.
It's not like that here.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Should we have a vote, or is it too many still to do?
I think for this one, I think I agree with what you said. There's three main topics here.
Yeah.
Those three that you said. So we just create. My keyboard seems to be a little bit janky. So if you could just write down those three, and maybe we can just vote on those instead of the individuals, because most of them say the same thing. Except for the dictator, that's only one.
It's not good. Can I have that as a side chain?
Most dictators are not voted, so yeah.
Are everyone okay with that? Or anyone want to add something to the conclusion?
We're now forming the groups, the categories to where to put the input. Is it the notes?
Yeah, yes, and we also need to conclude like what are the most important aspects. So what Thomas suggested is we group them together and conclude with those aspects, and then we can, in peace after a conference, take down all of the stickies to the right place to save time.
No point in me sitting here while you guys are waiting for me to.
I have
To
one
sort things.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Because yeah, sorry.
No, so go ahead.
I was just about to say these three categories, they are all kind of aspects of governance for governance sake, right? It's
Yeah.
not the
The-
point of contributing to governance. So
Yeah.
what is it that you're actually going to achieve by doing this? You know, i.e. manage Cardano, introduce stuff, take out stuff, sort of, the thing that you're actually doing with the governance is really represented.
So what would you say is representing, what does the delegate representative create by doing this? That's the new thing in this governance. Is it the decentralization aspect, that it's no longer entities doing the voting, or what?
Well, if the question is why become a DRep,
Yeah.
the answer, okay, participant in governance and sort of make sure that that is all well and dandy, but then you also want to change stuff, right? You want to manage the treasury, you want to fund projects, you want to move stuff around, right?
Yeah.
So you want to exercise this governmental freedom or the ability for governance, I guess.
And I would also want to say something just about changing it, but also maintaining it, right? So we can ensure that the blockchain keeps on running, produces blocks regularly. It's not just, let's say, milked out of the treasury, but ensure that thing remains, which is, right, it's a running system, the network needs to continue.
Yeah, because if the question is why become a DRep, and nobody decides to become a DRep, then it only takes like one guy to become one to, you know,
Dictatorship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dictatorship, or to, you know, like, okay, I want to just divert all the treasury to myself, or do some. Of course, this probably isn't possible due to the constitution and everything, but it's a good reason to become a DRep, right?
To protect and maintain the blockchain
Yeah. And the ecosystem, I guess.
and the ecosystem. Ben?
There's an additional way that you might think about it, which is a human sensory network. So you have this decentralized protocol, it's like the tag, right? But people often forget this, like it's people all the way down, right? It's relationships run everything. And I think that a lot of other ecosystems, they just talk about that. And Cardano's kind of strength in a way is that it's people first, human first. So this is a Cynefin framework, but this human sensory network is helping the ecosystem see itself, understand itself beyond like whatever part of that ecosystem that you're in. And so I think, and I got some ideas to share later, so this may or not, I'm kind of what's the term, I'm begging the question, but I feel like people in a decision cycle of observation, orientation, decision, action, people are all in these different pockets of the ecosystem, wherever they are. The borders are stretching out faster and faster, and it's like, how can we escape just our first-hand experience? Like, what's true for me? Is it true for other parts of the ecosystems? This human sensory network, in my mind anyway, is stretched out. First of all, you've built this decentralized protocol, then you build this human sensory network out that has all these different nodes, right? So it's not my idea, it's a Cynefin framework thing for how you operate between chaos, complexity, complication, and clarity. But
I see this already, like the debate yesterday, like open source, closed source, like this is something we're going to see about the delegated representatives also talk about. And we are going to have to express ourselves and learn each other and our culture and how we're going to live together. That's a hugely important part of the delegated representative. I think it can take away a lot of the pain and tension if we do it right, that we make it so that you are able to outlet your opinion and you can see that your voice matters, even if you're a minority in an opinion. At least you can express this in a voting anchor or, through this.
In peacetime, you build this human sensory network out, and you're going through the normal machinations and cycles, right? But it's an advantage in the sense that during extraordinary times, you have a network that you can bring to bear of people now geographically spread out that isn't quite there for other.
Yeah.
You don't have it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and that also is like a robustness to this as well. Yeah.
I think another aspect that is important as well is it's very tempting for a lot of people, I think, to think about themselves. Oh, I'm not technical. Oh, I don't know enough about this to contribute meaningfully, and sort of outsource it to people that are, building protocols or to IoT or whatever. And that's kind of the point that we shouldn't do that, right? Because then you'll be governed by people who are builders, who are very sort of biased in particular directions, and it may not represent everyone's best interest. So it is important for people to, even though they may think that they're not suited for the role, to actually contribute, because they are exactly suited for the role. It's kind of the point of it, to capture all of these different viewpoints.
I really love that take. Like, it's going to be hugely important that we don't just allow domain experts to become delegated representatives, and that's in the culture we present about how to become a DRep. It should also be generalist or someone who just have a passion for Cardano and for governance. And I see the path is more like how do we create frameworks that make it so that it's easy to make good decision processes, also if you're a generalist, for example. Mm-hmm. So that will be a topic for one of the later questions. Yeah. But I fully agree with that. That's a good point.
Can I just ask a quick side question? Did we tweet out any pictures of us starting this thing off because it's really cool?
Let's do that.
People that don't know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Have you tweeted out anything?
Is it being streamed or?
We're recording it, so there will be.
It will be uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to tweet something, go ahead.
I'm gonna take a picture.
Yeah, I can tweet about it. I tweeted that I was on the way here. All right. Need to match up.
In England we say cheese and chocolate biscuits.
Ghost chain!
I'd say ghost chain.
Yeah. All right, I feel we're getting a bit warm now. Like things are starting to loosen up.
Could we do a quick vote on those that are?
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah. And please, if I forgot something from the discussion, I'll add it as a note. This is a contributing workshop. It's not about any single individual.
What are we voting for? To have a single.
What we think is not a single one, but maybe what we think is the most important to highlight. Should we do the three most important, perhaps, Thomas?
Three votes?
Yeah.
So 3 votes per person. So, alright, well, if everyone just press join voting, click on the 3 that you feel are the most important to you.
Is it a secret vote?
Do you think it's secret? Yeah. Or is it?
Well, not mine, but yeah, yours.
Everyone else.
Should I vote, by the way? Yeah, I just vote.
There's a lot of many of these are the same.
Yeah,
Maybe the same.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to spend time gathering them up for it now. So we can do that later.
Just by saying we should let DReps be also generalists, then we're talking about DReps not being necessarily techie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my way of
That's what
putting
it
that.
is,
Yeah.
yeah.
And those two stickers, they are held by person now. They should just be combined.
Yeah, I think so. I agree on that.
I agree.
Because they are so similar.
Yeah.
There's still one more who's voting, so we got 15 seconds left.
And then you might say what's the difference between a freedom aspect and a democratic aspect.
Yeah, I think for me that was more like liquid democracy, or the fact that anyone can participate. And there are democracies where you have still, like, you have to have an organization, you have to have some set bar to be able to achieve. Like a minimum number of, like in Norway, we have a minimum for joining a political party. But here, it's direct, anyone can contribute. But,
The results are like that.
how? Oh, there. To protect and maintain them. Okay. Yeah, I guess we should remind ourselves that that's one of the main reasons to become a delegate representative. And the functional aspect of it, to create a functional governance. And it's a very high tie on that one.
But I think since the exercise the ability to change, maintain the blockchain, and to protect and maintain the blockchain and ecosystem,
They're the
similar.
same.
Yeah, I think we can probably choose the other two for the
Yeah.
if we want to get through.
Can you join those together, Thomas?
We'll just do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it
Perfect.
first.
All right. I think we need to move on to keep this going on schedule. The next one is how to become a DRep. I will have a short speech about that first. Like, I think it's fairly straightforward how to become a delegate representative currently for anyone that's active in the ecosystem. You create a SanchoNet address, you get either from the faucet, and you either use GovTools or the command line interface to register as a DRep. and you have a place you host your voting anchor for your rationale. What I would like to discuss is how do we make this easier for someone who has never heard of SanchoNet and has just heard of Cardano now. For example, could we automate creation of addresses and faucet and the registration of DReps in a single form? Could we have a proof of onboarding DRep or POOD for DReps? Oh, and how would this look like? Or other ways we can make it easier to become a DRep. So, of course, you don't have to rely on my example, but I want you to think about how to become a DRep. And my own opinion is like, how can we make it easier to become a DRep for someone who's not familiar with SanchoNet or something like that. So let's give it another 5-minute session.
So this is more specifically about how to become a DRep on SanchoNet?
Yeah, so currently we don't know that much about the platform for Catalyst DRep.
Yeah.
But of course, if you have an opinion on that, like just mark it with its Catalyst DRep, and then it's fine. Yeah.
But I think your assumption is also the same experience for mainnet.
Yeah,
Is what you're asking.
Yes. So we do know there's work on platforms, but we have to rely on what's publicly available and what we know now, and try to think ourselves like, how can we make this easier? Yeah. Okay. I see one thing that's shaping up is that many believe the wallet is the key to getting the DReps. Wallets are used by everyone, so it's a natural entry point to be able to register as a DRep and be introduced to that. Another one is this like recruitment aspects, to have like games, to have recruiting season, to have platforms where you can get information. And a third one is more about the experience of it. Like, how should I say it? The fact that the more you build on it, like the more people partake in it and you share its experience, then you build a reputation others see from the path you forge, then they will also join. So I don't know, what should we say, like presenting the data of what the first delegate representatives are doing, something like that, is also a powerful incentive to why become a DRep. Let's start to discuss. I'll do the same and throw myself out with some stupid ones, and then we discuss how to make it better. I'm not sure if we should group this together, education and recruitment efforts, or if it should be two separate.
Maybe it's a stupid question, but how do you do it today?
To become a DRep? Yeah. So there's a Sancho.net network where you can read about how to become a DRep there. I would say it's fairly technical, and just recently we have this like Gov tools, and that one allows a wallet. I believe it's Lace and was there one more? Nami?
We
NuFi.
actually have 5 working now.
There's 5 working now, yeah. And through this Gov tool, you can also register to become a delegate representative. But there's no mainnet. There's no, like, I would say, like, description of, like, what does the job entail? Like, what does it mean, really? So I feel that's lacking a bit.
That's a great point, because one of the things I felt with SPOs was that they weren't qualified. What time investment is going to require?
Yeah.
What kind of resources are you going to need? And people didn't know. And then so downstream, you know, maybe it wasn't right for some people, but they've committed so much time and resource into it that it was very difficult for them to say, you know, this isn't for me. So the point there that I liked is I could almost imagine like what is the day in the life of a DRep to begin with, right? So you know what you're kind of getting into before you.
Exactly. When I became a staking pool operator, I could read what was the hardware requirement, could I expect in time I would need to put into this. I think we need something similar for a delegate representative as well.
I would say like having a proof of that education to become a DRep. So say, for example, you do a 1 hour education and then you get like a NFT or something that verify that you are aware of what it will be to be a DRep, and then you can do whatever you want.
That's really smart because if you shorten the time commitment in the first cycle, then it's less. You're lowering the barrier for someone to do something. You
Yeah.
get a feel for it, and then they're like, yeah, okay, moving on from it. You know, or
Yeah, so
Yeah.
then you can quit the education while before you're becoming a DRep, for example.
I like that. Yeah. So it could include like a theory, but a practical test too, right?
Yeah.
To get some experience behind the wheel.
Yeah, so you just don't leave the PC. Wait half an hour and press OK.
And just looking at the requirements or the steps for how to become a DRep, I would recommend having a light client version. So
Yeah.
you don't have to run a full node to do all of the stuff via CLI and
Yeah.
everything. It's
There is now actually, so that's what
Okay.
GovTool is,
Yeah.
essentially.
Okay.
But wouldn't it be possible to do it the same way as we have with the DEXs and stuff like that? That you just register with your wallet,
Yeah.
and then whoever wants to make a GovTool can make it. And
But if it's okay, I will still put the argument that it's important to emphasize light clients. So GovTool is one, but ideally we probably have more tools available. Yeah.
I think it would be useful for, like, I don't know if necessarily the registration, but at least like an onboarding thing. 'Cause one of the things that I put on there is to, in order to educate people about this and sort of try and onboard them, like, you see, you know, to take YouTube as an example, people have these referral programs, right, for products that they believe in or whatever, and then whenever they refer someone, they get a little bonus or something, so then suddenly you have all of these people advocating for this thing. Well, this thing being governance, it would be useful for, because people are coming to Cardano, they're using DEXs, they're using, you know, lending platforms or whatever they fancy, and they might not even know about governance. So just having these projects sort of at least have a little notice and then have something that they can integrate into the site that.
I would love like a QR code that registers you to GovTool and automatically did the faucet so you have a bit funds to test this, and with some like education material how to, oh yeah, go ahead.
I mean, in general, like, if we want to compare the incentivized testnet, like, why did we have in the beginning so many SPOs, was because people saw money, saw a big incentive, they want to jump in, they want to get some of those juicy rewards.
Incentives. I will put it down.
I mean, that's reality, right? And right now people do not see the reason for why should they now spend their precious time to become a DRep on SunshineNet. And I think it will change as soon as people understand that as soon as we have it on mainnet, the first people who are ready and who can submit governance actions, they will be the ones, you know, while others are still scrambling for defense, they will be the ones ready with their change requests and their treasury withdrawals. So I think right now it's a problem of people do not see they don't understand or see what they gain from playing around with it right now.
I think we will also get in the future, though, when everything matures. Let's be honest, all the blockchains around today are geeks hoping to get rich, and you have a technology aspect and things like that. From a technology point of view, it's fascinating, everything. But from a use case point of view in the future, and large players like my company really starts to look at how to utilize the functionality that we actually hope has a value, they will also become interested in having an impact on the development of the change, and they will also be DReps. Absolutely. So, I mean, looking at this midnight chain that is targeting more professional and commercial players, honestly not sure how that impact on Cardano. But when we have a governance model, these players will come into the arena and will have a significant vote. But of course, they will also have the capacity to dive into the command line interfaces and like that. But I'm not really sure how we're going to put what I'm saying now.
Yeah, I tried.
They of course, how to become a DRep. There's no problem for a big company to become a DRep. They have all the resources they need. But somewhere
I
we
think you're
need
talking
to.
about more about why become a
Yeah,
DRep.
why
Yeah.
become a DRep? To
Also,
actually to make sure that the evolvement of the chain suits our use cases,
Yeah.
suits our market, our customers. So
I can imagine that for, let's say, a big IT services company or consulting firm or someone that might be looking to add Cardano and the portfolio around Cardano into their product portfolio and their offering to clients, they may want to have a say in, okay, Midnight is great, privacy, all of that stuff. What's the next sidechain we need? What is the next Cardano core feature that we would need?
yeah, exactly.
Babel fees maybe is a higher priority than whatever else. Having just a say in that is going to improve the tool you're offering to your clients. So it's highlighting that aspect of it could be very useful for commercial clients and users.
Is there like a layer between a big company, I'm thinking of market research when I used to work there a long time ago, and you'd have a big company, you have these market research companies, I don't want to call them, this middle layer, like these consultancies that kind of like, you never get to the vertical coder if you've got the tool, you have to go through the consultant, and then if in that layer there, is it the consultants that would be maybe selling or advocating for Cardano to be a company that's going to be the DReps?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this. Could you also say that when this large corporation onboard, let's say the use cases on Cardano is big enough, they will also want their customers to onboard to Cardano governance because they want them to have an influence. Let's say you're having a card and you're having lots of values.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought because even though it's a big company, it doesn't necessarily say they have a big vote, so they need a lot of people delegating their power to them.
Yeah.
To have the power to vote.
Yeah.
I want this parameter to change. And then you need some backing power, right? And imagine that you have, we call it, a huge amount of customers.
Yeah.
That if you just do this, if you buy one ERA and delegate it to me, then we have a chance to improve this service, right?
And that's a very good point, because then you're not just convincing your users or clients to buy an asset, but you're also emphasizing the participation aspect. Like, okay, it's don't just hold this on a centralized exchange. Go in, put it like this. I'll show you, every step of the way what you need to do, and then you can delegate it to me, and I will, represent your
your own interest.
Your
right?
interests.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good way to deal with it, because institutional adoption and purchasing of the asset itself is okay. It's nice, but it's much more interesting if they're actually participating in all of the stuff, like staking, governance, all of these things, right? So that's a good point.
I try to make that into a sticky, and the summary of it is like basically also this organization would like to have easy ways for how to become a DRep for their customers as well. I think as some middle layer to it. Yeah.
Just to answer the question in the most literal sense, I've put a link to the existing tool called GovTool, where in about 3 clicks you can become a DRep. So, and Nico has attached as well. He has done a nice explanatory video of how the tool works. So if you'd like to look at that later, that's available.
Yep.
What I would think here is that if there is a command line interface for doing this, then the people that are developing more advanced graphical interface for this, they will happily develop something which is more user-friendly.
Absolutely, and the GovTool they're talking about is already at that point where it's a web app, basically.
Yeah, so you just need to to provide the basic things so that wallet developers can
Yeah,
can add the user friendliness. Yeah.
yeah. And I believe that's some of the standards, SIP standards we have, right? Yeah.
There's a SIP 95
Yeah.
wallet connector. SIP.
And I also think GovTool will become open source, right, in the future. That
Yeah.
there's-
Yeah.
So people can build on top of that. So it's a really nice tool.
10 seconds, go over the stickies, try to add some new from the discussion we had now. I'm not the best at giving the summary of this, but I tried. And then let's do a voting session. Yeah?
So I think we all think integrating movements is a good way to integrate it. So I think it's also important to verify. So if you have a staking pool and that's like the representative of all the stakers,
Mm-hmm.
there should be like something like a proof of reputation of this pool. So you don't have like a lot of trolls getting together staking ADA and they actually can cause a lot of damage.
You mean for the delegated representative, not the pool, but also
Yeah.
for the, yeah. That's a good point, really good point. And that's actually going to be a bit the next topic is this like code of conduct and how we should like disclose information and how should we view this information and data about delegated representatives. So I fully agree, and that's a very important topic.
The trolls are out there.
And there will be people voting for Lambos, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Vote.
Let's see. We'll do the same thing. 3 votes, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I really wanted NFT certification.
I voted.
They voted already.
If you have one NFT certificate, then you can send an NFT to someone else. And then get a certificate.
Yeah, in theory, you could send it to someone else, but also if you have lost the seed first and you have to change the wallet, you can send it to yourself.
But a certificate, you don't want to be able to send it because it should be you personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm
But
but that was not my
NFT can
intention.
include
It's
the
just this,
metadata.
I'm just thinking like, yeah.
Yeah, but you can change a certificate. You can change anyways and just write another name. So
Yeah.
it's just free. But in a blockchain, I think then it's more rules because if you sell it, you can track it.
Yeah.
Also.
Will there be time during this day to have a look at your agenda?
Yeah.
Because I have this, even though I tried to read up quite a bit, there is still one question that is unanswered, and that is when they have voted, right?
Mm.
And it ended yes, the majority voted yes for changing a parameter, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? How do you ensure that that is actually conducted? Is that? I don't know that. Oh, they have voting results. Fine, the law process, right? But how is that actually executed?
So when you're talking about the SIP 1694 DRep, it's also quite described in the SIP 1694, like the process from enactment, how you actually implement what is voted on.
It's automated at the protocol level.
Yeah.
So just at the end of the epoch, there's a tally of the votes that have been cast. And the whole process is automated, so it's enacted without any human intervention.
Yeah, that's the main point, or that's the vision. But is it? Or is it work in progress?
It will be. That's the
and
design
is
of the system.
Okay, but is the documentation is a part of the SIP 694 that I missed that?
Yeah, it's there, and you can even on Sunshine that they already done like parameter changes, and you can see them live being enacted on the network. I believe they have done a hard fork as well.
Okay, but
So
let's say I want to propose voting for burning 50% of the ADA, or just get rid of the treasury to reduce the amount, right?
yeah,
Is that cases like that also possible to be executed
yeah. So
in the model?
yeah, so that's important then to read the tri-party system of the SIP and with the constitutional committee, because some things are going to be unconstitutional to do, and there's a safeguard there, like we call them constitutional guardrails, that will protect the network in this bootstrapping period, and also we as a community will actually decide and create this constitution that will have guardrails for some actions. And that is to protect from, like, for example, destroying the liveliness of a blockchain. Like to say that there should no longer be any blocks produced. That's something everyone would universally agree that you should not be able to vote and do. Yeah. But there are going to be gray areas of that, and that's why we are here.
Yeah.
We're doing the code of conduct to try to think of like what type of rules should we apply upon ourselves as DReps to protect, and what kind of like basic knowledge do we need to have as DReps to be able to vote efficiently and not harm the blockchain itself.
And there is this governance action that is this informational thing, right, which is not necessarily enforceable, but more, you can vote on a general piece of information.
Information, yeah.
So it's not, okay, change the K parameter to 750 instead of 1,000, but it's more like maybe we should, you know, dedicate more efforts towards adoption or towards, you know, development or whatever. So
yeah. Let's keep chugging along. I hope everyone's fine with this like a bit loose style, and that's how I like to roll it. Platform education and the role of the DRep, that's the number one, and I agree. And it's natural wallets, and then it's shared between incentives and this like more how do we also onboard larger organizations, and how do they onboard their customers. I think Thomas will just bring forth both. But, yeah. Cool. Let's carry on. We're already behind schedule. So the next one is supposed to be a bit meat of the potatoes here. Is this ethical framework or the code of conduct. I've given everyone a paper here, and on the second page, it's in, if you flip it over, Orna, here you go. And Ben, a couple more, here you go.
Thank you.
Orna, back, Henrik. So what you see here is like the result of like 6 online sessions, 1 Twitter space, and 1 physical in Japan, and us, the team that got the Catalyst proposal for doing this workshop, having done 4 weeks of work. It started as a 30-page document, and we quickly realized with the feedback from the community that this is way too much. Like, if you're new to Cardano, you should have something simple. So really the work we have been doing after is really try to simplify it to its core. And we thought of 3 main things that we believe are important for any delegated representative. And they are based on like values, and also like we try to, there's many things we could have put there, but we try to not limit the freedom of DReps. We had a huge discussion about, for example, should you be able to sell your vote and all of these things like more related to market and the financial incentives of being a delegated representative. But we decided like more on a path where as long as you disclose what you're doing, we are not going to say anything in the current code of conduct to that. That has to be established by the wider community if we are going to say that something is abolished or against it. Our path has more been that this is something you opt into, and you can choose to disclose. And then the community can decide, maybe it's good to delegate to this delegated representative that follows this code of conduct, because we then really know they have a certain standard in how they conduct themselves, right? Competence is the number 1, and it boils down to having the knowledge to cast a vote. And that doesn't mean you have to be an expert on every topic. But what we want to try to avoid is this more like arbitrary vote, where you're just like voting to vote. You should have some form of opinion, and you should have some form of information about what you're voting on, how you're actually expressing your vote. So as a minimum, I believe it's important to disclose if you're going to have a voting anchor that says your rationale. And the other thing we discussed is knowledge is also part of being a resource. Like, it's okay to have a knowledge, but how much of your time or effort are you going to give to being a delegated representative? Ben touched on it. Like, this is important also for people who are going to become delegated representatives. They need to know, like, what do I expect? Like, what's the expected standard of me, right? And that's why we think it's important to have some form of disclosure about this. But we had some discussions like, is it okay to disclose hours? Is that meaningful? Is it more meaningful to try to find some objective measurements on your activity, perhaps? But I will leave those for you guys to decide on. The other one we were looking at is the organizational aspect of it. One part of it is actually protection against both anti-Sybil attacks and what we call like collusion, meaning more like a secret vote between different organizations or people. That's problematic because that causes voter fatigue. If you see that the result seems to follow a pattern but it's not disclosed somewhere, you will start to have some distrust in the system. So if you are part of an organization, we believe it's important to disclose that and also disclose your ties in the ecosystem. So mapping of this becomes very important.
Can I just ask a sanity check question? I assume, like with pool tools and stuff, people will be able to look up a DRep, their voting history, how often they participate. That will all become very visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Right. Good point. And the last one is fairness. So I think it's important, again, like not to have like this arbitrary vote. Like, are we going to see like the voting scripts where people just vote to get the money and without any purpose behind it? So having some form of disclosure where you say what's your voting behavior rules, that seems important. And the interest of the proposer, in light of fairness, and this is again is a bit like gray area, but all of us at the team agreed. If you have an economic interest in a proposal, you should disclose this. And we believe this is also again important for the trust of the system over time, that you do it this way. So those 3, competence, organization, and fairness, are the 3 things we identified.
Just a quick question. What happens if there's a breach of any of these? So
yeah. So currently, we don't believe in having like some form of penalty or that, but in the footnotes, the Japan community have discussed, like, should there be some form of organization and that you could have some form of deposit or something that you are signing that you agree to this code of conduct, and you have an organ that says like you are in breach of your code of conduct. That could be one way that will form over time for this. For now, we believe also that just as you have pool tools where we had shaming of pools who did something wrong, you could actually have people to say, look, what you did here and what's standing in the code of conduct, it doesn't match up. What's your defense against this? But I think it will naturally evolve more towards something like organizational-wise over time. That's my thought about that.
What's the position like privacy? Does someone have to disclose who they are?
Yes, so we also think that for Sybil attacks, over time, you should have some form of disclosure. It should at a minimum be a way to be reached. And that's possible without fully disclosing yourself. We don't think in the current system it's ideal or possible to have a full disclosure for everyone, so we're not going to advise that. But we think that you should disclose why you disclose what you disclose and why you don't disclose. Like, what's your rule on anonymity? And if you can say that, and the delegate can read that, they can make up their mind about it. So I think that's, yeah. So those are the three core elements. And I want to task you now to really look at this. And if you believe there should be another characteristic, you are, of course, free to do that. For time reasons, we just have 3 topics, right? Yeah. So that's why I picked these 3. But if you have another topic, just add it into the stickies that you also believe this is something that's part of the code of conduct. The first one we're going to do is how should DReps disclose this competence, and how can we measure it? And should time and resources be part of such a disclosure? So the first task is like stickies about competence.
So do we add them on the left side and then maybe?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Thanks, Trim.
Do you have everyone on the green one for this one and then the red
So, can you repeat it? How?
Yeah, how should DReps disclose competence, and how can we measure it? And as a bonus question, should time and resources be part of such a disclosure? Okay, I see 3 trends here. One is certifications, like tests. The other one is endorsements, so through social acknowledgement. And the third one is like data, so actual activity from the DReps. I actually think all 3 are important, and we'll write them down in the conclusion.
Just to save some time, I think we just take these topics right now in one color, and the next.
Ah.
So we do all voting for all 3.
After, yeah. This makes sense. The other one was endorsement. And the third one was chain data of activity. Are everyone okay with that? That we actually do the conclusion discussion last and we move on to the next one, so to save some time?
Yep.
Okay. So for organizations, how do we prevent collusion or hidden influence between people or groups and form transparent sharing of how DRep organizations are formed? So the sticky is trying to discuss this one problem with organizations, and that's like the hidden influence between people. And how do DRep organizations have to be transparent? How do we do that? But again, that's an example. So if you have something else you believe is important for the organization, feel free to add it. Whistleblowing, bro. This is amazing.
The question is how to make organizations transparent.
Yeah, that's a
That's the
good
question.
way to frame
That's
it.
a
Yeah.
tough one.
Yes, that's a problem in general with the organizations. That there are standards, like there are environmental standards, so you disclose, and yeah, so it's definitely possible.
It should be, yeah, limit.
And I mean, like, that's our opinion so far. Like, maybe you disagree, maybe you don't think organizations should have this transparency. That's okay too. Like, this is an open group. Give your opinion. Are everyone okay with pushing slightly ahead of the schedule, that we have a bit longer before the break to finish this one? Or are we feeling we need to have a break at some point now? All good? Let's get this done. Yeah. Talk whistle. That's okay. If I see too many huskies, I will call it a break. But
We've lost it.
Yeah.
That's the last one.
Talking about trolls, right?
the color, I'll do a pink one for this. Because why not? Lobbying rules was an interesting one.
I think bad behavior should have economic cons. Slaying. It's in the death penalty.
Slay them, wow.
Seems harsh.
We are going medieval.
Yes.
We don't go slashing, we're slaying. That's going hard in the code of conduct. Yeah.
Just implement Sharia law.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like if it would promote it, yeah, we're slaying her. So it's like
Very interesting.
I found 3 interesting so far: lobbying rules, organization disclosure rules, and blockchain analytics to help show patterns like these sleuths or these like detectives. Let's keep that for the and rest after to push this one through. If everyone is okay with that, let's do the last one. So, fairness. How do we promote fairness to prevent voter fatigue, such as arbitrary voting? Or voters voting without some other reasons than their economic interest? Or is that okay? So I guess like the main question is like, how do we promote voter fairness? And I hope we can try in that to answer like, how do we avoid arbitrary voting? Because I think that could be a big problem. And that's something we really need to think about. Because that's a danger.
How do you define arbitrary voting in this context?
Yeah, so let's say you have a script that votes on every single governance topic, and there's no voting anchor at all. So maybe like not having a voting anchor would be a good step in analyzing this. But I don't want to be like hard on that rule, because there could be people voting 1 or 2 without the voting rationale, getting to be dipping their feet sort of into DRep. But like, I think if you have a pattern of voting tons of times and collecting rewards without any form of rationale for why you're voting, that's a problem. It's a governance problem.
There was an actual topic in a discussion that I was a part of for proposing literally a Husky DRep, which it's not to plug Husky. It may sound like it, but
That's the guy with the husky.
yes, exactly. But the explicit purpose was to vote randomly on every single decision in order to drive up participation. Because if you don't participate, the Husky DRep is gonna, mess up everything because it's voting.
Aha!
So to literally drive participation.
That's an interesting twist on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
So it's fear. Fear is
We're not slaying, we're using fear.
it's like the ever-looming threat of random voting.
But that's a good point. I appreciate that point of view. Definitely that should be part of this discussion. Is arbitrary voting okay? Like, in some form, as long as like the majority is doing the otherwise. Yeah, but the question is fairness. How do we promote fairness in how DReps vote? And I know this is a hard one to answer. We struggle a lot with it as well. So.
I just get stuck on fair. Like,
Yeah.
like,
How do you define fair?
it's like an impossible problem.
I know. If you propose another way to organize this, I would welcome that. We discussed this a lot. That's what we ended with. Because we believe like it's the correct term of not abusing the system, sort of. But maybe there's a better term to define this. Yeah.
Maybe a stupid question, but you have been into this long enough. Is one ADA one vote?
I would say to that answer, yes, but also a bit no.
So there isn't decided anything upon that yet?
No, there is. Well, it's very clear in the SIP that one ADA is one vote. But if you actually do the studies and math on this, like if you have a fair amount of ADA and you do like Banzo power index theories, you see that sometimes your voting power is outside influenced than your actual ADA holdings. So there are some voting theories that suggest otherwise, but this is my personal opinion. We have a white paper on this, like democratic pluralism by Henrik Nielsen et al. But I would say that's a bit controversial. It's not something the whole community have decided upon. But in general, I would say, yes, the SIP says one vote, one ADA, one vote, but there are some discussions in the community about that. Yeah.
And I would say the system itself contains the ability to change its own voting system and evolve should that technology be.
Absolutely.
This is the same with like, so now I'm kind of mixed myself up. Wasn't there a quadratic voting thing where you had a large amount of ADA, it diminished the more you just
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Kenrick's
So
child.
if you have, I mean, if you have 1,000 ADA versus 1,000 ADA and a quadratic approach, to me, that is fairness.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely, because and this is one of the key elements that has to be decided soon. Because the big voters having 64 million ADA, they will never vote to reduce that power later on. That's never going to happen.
Can I, me and Trim have discussed this a lot, and it's important to remember that also the safety of the protocol is decided by these governance votes, and this safety of the protocol is dependent on the ADA having influence based on how much ADA you want.
But then, if you say that, then you somehow disbelieve in the decentralized governance model. If you're saying that the existing big players are necessary to maintain the blockchain's sustainability ahead.
I understand that argument, but I would say argue against that in that you don't necessarily need to have this one ADA, one vote for all types of governance actions. In the future, I could easily imagine treasuries and treasury withdrawals. That's going to be the main thing. How you spend resources could easily be quadratic voting. And as Michael Madoff pointed out, like this is up for vote. We can change it. It's not anything different from what we currently have. Currently, we have 3 entities having, I believe it's 7 keys or something like that. And that's the vote currently. So what we get now is better. And it is something we can move towards a path. Just as we moved towards the path of decentralization with staking pools, with the D parameter, it was federated at the beginning and finally fully to all of the staking pools in the end. We can do the same. But I don't disagree with you. You have a good point. It's important.
An important note as well, a difficulty with something like quadratic voting is most of the bigger holdings are already distributed across 10, 20, 30 wallets, right?
I know. So they control it anyway, right?
It's
in a
hard.
sense.
Yeah, it's less effective in that setting, right? So I think if you wanted to do something that sort of actually affects that, we would have to look at voting action. Who's voting on everything? The wallets and consistently vote for exactly the same thing with every single, vote. Maybe part of the same entity or more aligned or whatever. And then there may have to, if you want to enforce something like this, it may have to be a little bit more sophisticated than just mashing with the numbers, basically.
Yeah, and I think this connects back to actually item 2 on the list, which mentions anti-civil attacks.
Yeah.
Right? So there's kind of a fundamental security flaw in that you can create an infinite number of wallets, and if you assign voting power to an individual wallet, then the system becomes meaningless.
But I would say the community is definitely discussing this. We believe when DIDs are here, then there's much more possibility for this. Yeah. Good. It's okay to have this discussion. That's also very meaningful. But it looks like we have some stickers here, and great. Let's see what's the. I was so into the discussion, so let's see the pattern here. Yeah, DIDs. So we can actually. That's important. Quadratic voting. Yeah, this has been like every single time I'm in a DRep meeting or some form, I always get this feedback. So I know the community wants to look at this. Yeah, yeah, voting power according to activities on chain, that's interesting. And one of avoiding arbitrary voting by incentivizing the reps that put a lot of, yeah, so incentivizing to avoid arbitrary voting. Okay. Not sure how that would look, but yeah.
How is incentivizing voters to avoid arbitrary voting possible?
Yeah, that's what I would imagine. It would be something like a social thing that you could say like, oh, you have all these voting anchors. I think we discussed this during the Edinburgh workshop, like to have some form of output that you produce, and that's part of your incentivization. Because it's very hard for a script to generate a rationale that, like in Catalyst, for example, in platform, you have reviewers, and they review your proposal. Like you could imagine something the same for voting anchors, and to have, I don't know.
It's really interesting because what you often see is like people in different parts of the system will have someone they listen to. Maybe they onboarded them, right? And they become familiar with those views, but they don't necessarily have the opposing arguments or the opposing views next to them. So it would be really nice if you were it would be optional, but if you choose to put your rationale, maybe you get 100% of the rewards and you only get a fraction if it's like you don't, but it's optional. Is somebody could come in and then read the for and against. Do you see what I mean? You could take all of those, this is why I'm voting this way, and read those arguments, and then it becomes almost like, in this election, you start reading the arguments, I'm stumbling. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, is that people don't see both sides. And you see it in politics as well, right? People kind of always other the other person.
That would be such a huge important from the current political system, where it's very twisted on your for argument.
Yeah. I would also reframe it as, at the very least, not incentivizing arbitrary voting, right? Like you have a system where you pay people for each vote they're going to make as many votes as they possibly can to get paid in arbitrarily. So it's at the least avoiding bad incentives.
But again, how do we judge what's arbitrary voting? Like, where's the limit for that? Like,
we already have a system that is somewhat similar to like Catalyst.
Yeah.
Right? You have to, if you're applying for funding, the analogy here is instead of applying for funding, you're choosing to vote for a particular thing, and then you need to justify yourself, and then you have the community reviewing the thing that you make, provide their feedback, and you have this sort of system built around it, right? Where it's
group
sanitized and
wisdom,
everything before the actual vote goes through. It may make sense to do something similar to that, because and that's why I added a note here for community notes, because if you go on Twitter and you see something that is very big post that has some wild claim, sometimes you'll see a community note that has this statement is not entirely true, these are the facts, these are the links, these are the articles, and just
I love that idea. Like, you could tie to the voting anchor and let people have community notes to your...
Imagine the DRep saying, okay, I'm going to vote for this because, and some super nice story, and then someone already knows that, well, these guys have in the past voted the exact opposite for other reasons. They are inconsistent in their voting, or they're just trying to buy votes through popularity or something. You can add a community note with references to these past things, and provide a better view of what's going on.
Yeah, and you don't even need to add more blockchain data. You just pull this voting anchor and you create a platform where you can add these community notes. I really like that idea. Sounds like everyone else as well.
It's super interesting because now you have a class of people that are able to make community notes. And they're not DReps necessarily. Like I've done that community note thing, and it's like it's almost like a precept to being a DRep or something, I don't know, but how can I get involved without having to do the whole thing?
Yeah.
Community notes is super lightweight, and I can just dip my toe in and show that I'm an expertise, show I've got some competency. Maybe after my notes have been rated a certain amount, that's like a way of saying Ben's not a total idiot, so...
That lowers the barrier of entry totally for new. Yeah.
And that's my biggest concern.
People love policing each other, right? So
incentivizing natural behavior, yeah.
So holding these people that are trying to get your votes and enforce their will on the system, the opportunity to fact check them and
and it's like a right to reply as well, right? Like if someone's putting up, I'm going to vote this way, so my rationale to their voters, you've got the right to reply and say, well, it's not actually true because.
But where does that happen? I'm really sorry, because you provide the anchor on chain, you provide the rationale as in your vote as a DRep, and now where would this live? On a centralized hosted website that only permission people can comment on the rationale of other people?
Yes,
I think that goes against the whole decentralized governance approach.
I think a solution to that would be the way that they have service, or not community service, but in court in the US, they have like, they pick random citizens, say 10 people.
Like a jury system.
Yeah, like a jury system that you pick random people. This is what you're supposed to represent, for example, this.
And then you do it on chain
Exactly,
also?
you do it on chain. You choose random people all the time because then you don't have the possibility of the 10 same people coming up always for these type of votes. So you could randomize it in a sense where, okay, these 100 people have said that they want to, if the possibility is there, they want to represent this, or they want to argue for or against this. Okay, we pick these 100 people, and out of these 100, we're supposed to, or the system is supposed to pick 10, and then you'll have the history from before. Well, you represented this in vote X, so it's less likely that you'll hear, or if you understand what
Absolutely, and it's a relevant critique Nicholas brings, like, because if only a portion of the community reads this for and against, then what's the use of it? So definitely we need to tackle that problem, and that's an interesting solution.
It should be visible wherever you're getting information about who's voting for what, right?
Yeah.
But to take like a specific example, if the vote is on a transaction prioritization mechanism, for example, so something like tiered fees is an example of, you can pay a little bit more to get your transactions sort of in a faster tier to reduce the delay before it goes on chain. But you could also have a complete fee market like it is on Ethereum, or you could choose not to do anything, which is also, possible, right? If the vote was on a system like that, and someone is coming in and claiming, lots of different things. Oh, this is going to benefit the community. Oh, this is going to, benefit ADA holder. Oh, this is going to benefit whatever. And they're voting for a complete fee market or open fee market. And a community note there could be like, okay, but this guy's a market maker. So obviously he wants this because he will be able to front run people. He's operating a battery. He's doing whatever. So this will benefit them specifically. And, the claims that they're making for how it will benefit everyone else is, maybe it doesn't carry the same weight as they're claiming it does. So I think a balancing mechanism or sort of, information mechanism there would be very helpful for, giving context for why people are asking for your vote for this thing or for your backing, basically.
This was such an interesting topic that I suggest we even take some time to give feedback on this later as well. To keep in schedule, we have 3 for each. I put quadratic voting there as well. Should we keep this as it is and take a small break so we are on time? I apologize for that, but I always prioritize like open discussion when I see something interesting, so I think it was worth it to do it like that. So let's take a lunch break, Thomas, right? Should we do that?
Yeah, so there's so...
That makes more sense if you...
So we have 2 more topics, and it's going to be actually related to what Ben was talking about. It's going to be about branding, or how we make DReps visible. So one of the key things for me when I was thinking about this is like, how do we make sure that a DRep that's alone has a chance versus like huge organizations pulling in tons of resources into making a DRep visible? That's a concern for me, because over time that will easily favor and centralize DReps. So what I want us to discuss is like, how can we create platforms or tools or make it possible for all types of DReps to brand themselves and be visible in the ecosystem? Does that sound like a task you're up to try to think? Yeah. And let's do like we have done before. Now we're in Epoch 2. Is everyone ready for its summary?
Yeah.
Oh, there's another DRep there. I see that. I guess that means regional branding. Yeah. Political parties. Oh, okay, well, let's put that one in there as well. I tried my best from what I saw, but please correct me or add to this. So portals, there was many suggestions regarding some from portals. So you have this platform to be able to brand yourself. And then entity support, like I think I will highlight intersect there. Like, I hope we will be community driven, and that seems more sustainable in the long run. White label solutions, so like, I guess actually that mapping and stuff like that are part of this. Like, you have some form of available material that you can easily use then to show yourself and become visible and brand yourself. Maybe you can voice in on a single issue, as one here suggests, and show, and that way get your feet wet as a DRep, sort of. And the same with geographical issues. I think that's going to be a key thing, like what's important in some regions in Europe or in Africa or America could be very different, and you could differentiate yourself by showing local knowledge as well. So that seems correct to add. One more controversial, and I think it's a good point to discuss, is like, should there be some form of limits to branding? This also goes into this like security discussion, like the very popular DRep. Like, if there's no saturation limits, like, could we see the Lambo DRep? Like, vote for me and I will randomly give a Lambo to someone.
Very, very likely.
Yeah. So
And it's not just that, but like we saw with the blue check mark on Twitter, like, you know, someone will make the Lockheed Martin DRep, or, you know,
yeah,
like the Shell
version.
Orico, you know, like, yeah, to impersonate actual entities and people in the world.
Absolutely, we see that with SBOs already being impersonated, so that's going to happen. How do we filter that, or do we filter that? Or can we filter that? Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to bring that forward to the other workshops as well. That's an important point.
And we haven't like talked about like putting it in a DAO and do a separate voting for that special DRep. For example, you can build a platform. You can, when stuff goes out, so you can put like 1 hour before the vote close, you can do a voting on that, and you submit that to the actual vote.
Absolutely, like that creates engagement, creates natural forming organizations, so that's another way to brand yourself. Absolutely.
That would be the easiest part to get paid for being a DRep.
There will be a vote market where you can buy votes, obviously. I mean, this is already happening with Catalyst.
I wasn't thinking about like buying votes, but if you delegate to me, you're able to go into my website, press yes on that proposal, no on that proposal.
Yeah, like DAO.
And do it like a DAO.
That's kind of what I meant by political parties, actually. Like, that kind of purpose.
You have protocols like the fluid tokens, right, where stateful operators can basically borrow stake to their pool to boost their yield for a period of time until they attract actual stake and pay for that service. So could you do something similar?
Bootstrapping DReps with vote? Oh my God, yeah.
Using fluid tokens, like, oh yeah, you know, I have 5 million ADA delegation to me on day one because you're literally paying for it.
So are you guys familiarized with how they've done in Curve DAO? How they got the governance ecosystem going there? Basically, is that DRep, in this case, he has to lock up their tokens for a fixed period of up to, let's say, maximum 4 years. And the voting power that his DRep gets is proportional to the tokens holding multiplied by time locked. And it decreases linearly over time as tokens get closer to unlocked.
So form of saturation limit based on the deposit.
And you can also, in this case, like a DRep, also do like fundraising, like all polluters.
I will put that in there as well.
And I mean, we should not kid ourselves, right? The influencers that we currently have, they will have it the easiest. Basically, it's so easy to delegate, to attract delegation from their massive following, right? And this will happen.
And they take money from almost everyone.
Yeah, and I think the only chance small DReps have really is to come together and form these parties and coalitions. I don't know if you're really passionate about sustainability, you found sustainability party or something.
Yeah.
And then you define your own guiding principles, right? As the sustainability party, that's my stance on governance parameter XYZ, and then
I think the other deciding factor for who gets actual delegation is how are these DReps presented to the delegators. If you're browsing them in a wallet, you're going to be looking at the top 3 that is presented to you in the order they're presented to you, and choose from them.
I think what I would have done is just reach out to the top 10 influencers in Norway. And actually, there is a reward in here. We don't know how much it is. They have 1 million followers already. They have 1 million people. They can easily say, hey, just convince them to buy 10 ADA, right? Then they have 10 million ADA to work for. They have, and they will. It's that easy. They have no idea about what Cardano is, but we will fix that, right? But we know. I can talk to you, and you. Hey, this is Cardano. Let's make a business deal now, right? And it's like this. I don't have to promote and work my ass off to get attention from 1 million users. They already have them in a pocket. I can convince 3 people, not 1 million.
It's a form of the popularist attack.
But the thing, what you should also,
But it's not a
like
bad
buying the vote.
thing.
No, it's not a bad thing, but like you have to also, it won't be sustainable. So how can you onboard those millions?
Well, I mean, after all, our target is to get 1 million new people onboarded to the Cardano platform. That's what we want. That's mass adoption.
But is it adoption though, or it's not technically adoption because you're just telling people to buy this one thing. They don't know what they're buying. You're just buying
No,
because
but I think
influencers.
somehow they have to provide a message to
Yeah.
their followers, and we have to help them to wrap it in. But
But it also is, I think the idea works, but at the same time, like I said, it's not sustainable because they're not actually buying because they want to, they're buying because this influencer said that, oh yeah, but this is super cool.
But,
Not understanding. So you have
What
to-
is the
if you're
difference
gonna
is
do it-
DRep is telling them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Because
oh, yeah,
I am,
yeah.
as a DRep, I have to walk on the street.
Yeah.
Hey people, I'm here. Come on, attention, and I give them a
The
message.
end is
right?
9.
But this influencer already has 500,000 followers,
Yeah.
and I can just she can broadcast that. There's always a she, and like that, and then we have them.
It's marketing.
Yeah, but then you have to become a DRep.
Yeah, I can become a DRep, or we can make something out, right, and agree on something. But and then when I think about it, it's also some kind of a silly joke. But when I think about it now, it's actually a very good idea.
Yeah.
She,
So we're just gonna find
We
the
can
first.
use AI, we can make you a sheep.
huh?
We can use AI.
No, but it's a valid argument, this forms of populist methods. And that's in politics in
And think
general,
about
right?
it. I mean, there are now how many people in these communities around? How many ADA holders are there? Everyone wants to be their own DRep, right? Of course not.
Nope.
But we need to expand the market significantly.
That's why to become a DRep it has to be a little bit harder maybe, and you have to do the course and have a certificate that says you care about the network, maybe.
Yeah, but we also intend to make this available to anyone. That's one of the topics we discussed before lunch.
There's back with the SPOs when Daedalus was the only wallet. That was really a lot of very passionate people trying to get their pools up at the top, and obviously it's only one way of seeing pools, so there's a hierarchy. There can only ever be a small percentage at the top of that hierarchy, so you couldn't please you could never please everybody. And one of the interesting ideas was, I think it was Smash Server at the time, you know, that people ought to be able to curate their own lists, and you could load your list up in the wallet or whatever to see the view that you wanted, whether it was mission driven, bare metal, or single pool. So with these parties, you know, it could almost be, it'd be nice for curators, influencers, whoever, to be able to create a list of like, these are the DReps that I think represent these values, and you could upload your list and, you know,
Use it in a positive force way.
right.
Yeah.
People want to be able to, people don't want to have to go and read every website of every DRep, right? By the way, all of those experiences, every DRep's website will be a really varied experience. Some will be nice, some will be janky, do you know what I mean? They're like, so you should have a way, where just as you're kind of delegating your trust to a DRep, you might want somebody who I'd be like, oh, have you got a list of the DReps that you thought were quite good? I know he's smart, he isn't a DRep, but you might curate them for me, you know? Or even on a specific issue. I care about this specific issue, somebody's gone deep dived on it, which DReps were heavily involved in it, give me a curated list of those so I can, you know.
I added it as one of the points. So should we have a vote?
Oh, wow.
No votes cast. This session has ended with no votes cast. Is that correct?
It's just a bug. The results are up there, and
I do think some of these
You-
can
you
probably
can tell
be
them out
merged,
out
actually,
loud.
these issues.
Yes. I think definitely the first two we can bring up, geographical, portals, obviously, but the fourth one needs merging. um,
I think we
Is
will
it
bring
the-
up the top two.
we just bring up the top two.
I think so, yeah.
To Trim, how do you want to merge it before we?
I was just thinking the requirements to branding and the DAO voting process as a brand. I think some of these can probably be merged. The
Yeah, can downloading and political parties are the same thing.
Yeah.
and curated list of DReps would be a feature of the portal, right?
Yeah. Let's bring Thomas.
Well, a curated list would be like, I could write it on a notepad, anyone could curate the list, and anybody could upload that list and it would show the list. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be tied to, you're right, it would be on a portal, maybe you'd see it, but the core idea is that absolutely anyone could create a list
Yeah.
with parameters, then someone could just upload it, be like, yeah.
Perfect.
Like playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
The DRep playlist. I love it.
Exactly that, yeah. Because it allows you, I think Tim was talking about, maybe it was Wall at one point, to say with SPOs, but this might be relevant, you might have an appetite to, when you're delegating, to have certain, I'm very risk sensitive here, but I'm willing to put 20% of my portfolio to something that's a bit more, you know, are you able to split your voting power like that? Do you see what I mean? On certain issues, I want this DRep to be representing me. On these issues, I want.
I guess you could just split your wallet and not do that, but
It's actually interesting because if you, it depends, I guess, what voting's coming up that cycle, right? And maybe I like you two, but you're both different, and I like your politics here, but no, over here I prefer, I'm more with you, you know. So
I mean, we're already getting this staking portfolio feature,
Yeah,
right, where you
yeah.
can delegate to multiple stake pools
Yeah.
from a single wallet. It would make sense to do the same thing here. And then you could create a portfolio basically like a fund, right, of DReps.
That's kind of how Polkadot works also.
Yeah, and you can vote, split your votes across all of these DReps because they
what
have.
would be interesting is that if you had political parties and they could flag certain votes they thought were key to their, like a whip in a political party, right? This is a key issue. And then when you're staking to an all DReps, you split it, but you just say, only when the Green Party flags a green issue, then I want to support them. But in all other times, I want to go with my normal guys.
oh, that's interesting.
That's a really good
Yeah.
idea, actually.
And then you start having baskets of what your politics are. It doesn't matter what they are, but you have some baskets, and you have this kind of level where the party flags which issues are specific to their core values.
Can I call it flagging core issues?
Yeah. I've contributed something today. So I'm going home, guys. Thanks.
I'm done.
Right, should we move on to the last topic of the day?
Yes, you will be.
I'm going to take this one for that.
So, Thomas will be guiding us on this one.
Yeah. So we're gonna do things a little bit different for DRep tooling. Some of you went to the Cardano Summit community-led event in Oslo, where we did a hyperspeed workshop, and I was thinking we were going to do the same thing. So I'm going to divide the group into 3. So let's see, you guys, everyone on that side, not you, Arne. You are one team. Let's see, Arne, myself, B, Van, that's 4. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So it's two teams of 5, one team of 4. So myself, Arne, B, and Ben. That's one team. You guys are one team, and the rest is with Øystein. Let's see. The time now is 17 past, so yeah, let's say 1:45. We'll meet back here. One team stays here, the other just finds a place somewhere. And the objective is just come up with a DRep tool. It doesn't matter what it is. Hopefully something that doesn't already exist. But yeah, you can come up with anything. Usually I would have a prize for something like this, but I don't. So it's going to be honor, that's it.
I got some cigars I can
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah. So if one person on each team can just set a timer to quarter two, and we'll meet back here.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Yeah, I'll take the lead. You take the questions, okay? Okay. All right. So we're just gonna do like 3 minutes, short presentation from each group with their ideas. If you had one idea that you all went for, talk about that. If you had several ideas and did not conclude on anything, talk about that. Just talk about the ideas that you had, and I think Øystein, if you can write down the ideas that they come up with. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you can just start with the long side group.
Nico, did you write who wrote summary?
Yeah, I wrote something.
Yeah. So if the whole group or just one wants it, that doesn't matter. You can just click yourself on that.
Yeah, sure. So we actually wrote down a few ideas because we were so creative. We just couldn't decide on just one topic, but I'll just hold it. So one thing we discussed in the beginning was about how can we expect from DReps to come up with expert rationals all the time for all these different governance actions? The answer is we can't. It's impossible, right? Because DReps will probably be domain experts in a very specific field. Either they're developers or they have a lot of knowledge when it comes to the network itself, so parameters and such, or they're economists, so they will be able to provide some insights on the treasury withdrawals and so forth. So what we thought of, it would be necessary to create a platform, sort of like Fiverr for rationals, for voting rationals, where experts can provide either themselves the service of writing a great rationale, or the DReps can post that question of, hey, I need a rationale about why it's economically viable to get the treasury withdrawal of XYZ, right? So that was one thing we discussed. And then another thing was about UI and UX, right? It will be so important to have an easy to understand user interface for voters and for DReps when it comes to basically everything. The DRep life cycle, how do you register, how do you vote, how do you deregister? This needs to be as easy to understand as possible, because otherwise we will only have the experts, the people that already know what's going on. And if we want to, reach 1 million voters and have as many DReps as possible, then we need the tooling to be just really, really user-friendly. Another idea that Daniel had was that we should create a map, a world map, where we can see DReps on that world map. So for example, if DReps chose to reveal their location, or at least where they claim to be in the DRep metadata, then we could show it on the map. For example, we have a DRep in Norway or in Austria, and ideally what we expanded on is that
we could then also include information about how these DReps voted on governance actions. And then maybe you can draw some conclusions on how DReps in Europe voted versus how DReps in Asia or in Africa voted. Yeah. So that's about visualization and reporting, I would say. Another idea that we had was a vote market, right? Because in the end, there will be a demand for votes, and it's quite natural to say that there will also be a market for that. And if we don't want to do it, behind closed doors, off-chain, where it's basically over-the-counter trading, we should do it transparently on-chain, where everyone can see it, and basically try to make it official instead of pushing it to the edges and just, because it's happening anyways, so why not just put it